He told his sister he was only driving up to clear his head for a weekend. That was true. It was also true that he could only breathe when there were trees on both sides of the road and no service on his phone. Liam took the switchback slow, the national forest opening around him like a green mouth. Ponderosa pine, aspen higher up, a creek that kept reappearing as if the road couldn't stop crossing its own story. He had picked this place because it was simple, a loop trail to a small alpine lake, 12 miles round trip, modest elevation gain, well marked with cairns and blue diamonds on trees. The ranger at the station slid the map across the counter and tapped a spot with a chewed pencil. Trail marker 19, she said. Half the folks turn around there if weather looks bad. Don't if the sky's clear. You'll miss the view. He nodded. She added a laminated card with the SAR number and rules he already knew. 3 whistle blasts for emergency. Carry layers. Pack out what you pack in. He bought a tin of fuel and a cookie he didn't want. Up at the trailhead, the lot was only half full. A family with a Labrador unloaded coolers. A pair of college kids argued over who forgot the stove. Liam zipped his pack, tucked the map in the outside pocket, and shouldered into the cool morning. The air smelled like sap and cold iron. The trail began with a modest climb, earth still dark from a shower that must have come through last night. A wooden sign, Lake 6 miles. He found his pace quick. He always did when he was alone. The forest narrowed and widened like breath. Jays heckled him from branch to branch. Chipmunks scolded. The blue diamonds on the aspens flashed and vanished, and returned, just when the path threatened to dissolve into roots. The markers were generous out here. Small stacks of flattish stones set knee-high on boulders. He knocked one gently with a finger as he passed. It didn't wobble. Whoever set them knew the trick. Wide base, small capstone. By mile 2, he didn't hear the family anymore. By mile 3, the creek ran closer to the trail, then under it, then away. The forest changed. Pines thinned, firs took over, and the floor grew soft with duff. He filtered water where the map suggested. He saw a white scrap of tape tied around a sapling and assumed a trail crew had been through recently. At mile 4, the sky closed. Not dark, just denser, the way high country weather goes from postcard to warning in half an hour. Liam checked the ridgeline. The clouds weren't building yet. He kept on. He saw trail marker 16 painted on a wooden post at a junction and felt a small childish pride. He wasn't a person who ticked boxes at home. No gym streaks, no language app flames. But out here, he liked numbers. Marker 16 meant the lake was only a little beyond 19, and the map said after 19 the path unwound into a meadow, and after the meadow the lake appeared like a coin in a pocket. At marker 17, a pair of hikers came the other way. They looked tired, happy, damp around the edges. "Worth it?" he said. "Always," the woman said. "Wind picked up on the west side though. Keep your hat." "Any snow?" "Only under the trees. You'll be fine." Marker 18 was strangely built. A cairn of 7 stones with the cap balanced in a way that made him want to fix it. He didn't. You don't mess with cairns. He took a picture. No reason. The light was nice. Then he came to a clearing where the forest floor went from needles to granite and the trees opened like curtains. A wooden plank stood to the right, stenciled white, 19. Only the arrow beneath it pointed left, across a line of low brush where there should be nothing. The map in his pocket had the trail continuing straight. Straight took you along the creek. Left took you along nothing. Rock. He worked for a second cairn. Saw none. He pulled the map and compass, because that's what you do, even if you think you know. He set the map north with the compass. The trail, thin brown line, black dots marking cairns, kept going straight through the gap. His finger traced it. The arrow said left. Somebody spun the sign, he said out loud, more to hear a voice than anything. He tested the post. It didn't move. The screws had rust in their heads like old blood. The arrow looked original. The stencil paint had age to it. He stood there longer than he needed to. The forest had that weird, muted feeling he associated with snow days as a kid. He checked the map again. Straight. He went straight. He found another cairn 20 yards past, then another. Confidence returned the way it does when the world continues to behave. He walked another half mile. The trail rose onto a granite shoulder. He should have seen the meadow opening. Instead, the rock widened and kept widening until trail turned into slab and the cairn stopped. He pivoted. No cairns behind him either now. He scanned, moved, changed his angle. He should have seen one. He didn't. He told himself to slow down. People get lost because they rush. He took a breath. Another. He triangulated with two obvious features: a notch in the ridge, a dead snag with a crook at its top. He set a bearing. He angled gently right, expecting to intersect the original path. He walked 10 minutes, 15, 20. He didn't feel the panic yet, only its contour, like a shape behind a curtain. His phone had one sliver of battery and no bars. He kept it off to save both. He marked a tree with a small piece of orange tape. He did it again 50 yards later. The forest thickened unexpectedly. Firs closed in, branches too low for a proper trail. This was wrong. He pivoted back, following his own tape. He arrived at the dead snag with the crook at its top and felt relief, like warmth after cold. He took out the map and stared until the lines blurred. He heard a whistle then, 3 short blasts, the standard distress call, coming thin and clean through the trees. "Hey," he answered, voice too loud. He forced his hand to grab his own whistle, gave 3 blasts back. "You good?" Silence. Then, after a long 10 seconds, 3 blasts again. Same pitch, same spacing, coming from a direction that didn't agree with his memory of the trail. He made a decision. He followed the sound. It's stupid to chase noises in the woods. He knew that. But this was the call you answered. And maybe the way to the lake bent more than you thought. And maybe the map was outdated. 3 blasts pulled him along a rib of rock. They led him between 2 firs that mirrored each other, down a shallow draw where the ground was drier than it should be. The blasts paused, then came again. He didn't think to note the time between sets until later, when he would realize the gaps were exactly the same every time. 7 seconds. 7 seconds. 7. He reached a small open place cut into the slope. Someone had made a fire ring. Not new, not old. There were boot prints here. 1 set, medium, probably a woman's. He crouched, touched a heel mark, fresh enough to still hold an edge. His heart lifted. "Hello?" he called. "Ranger? Hiker? You injured?" 3 whistle blasts again. Closer. And then, as if the sound had stepped behind him, the same 3, a few inches from his ear. He whipped around. No one. He felt it physically then, the line between his shoulder blades where fear hooks in. He pulled out his own whistle and blew again. 3. He waited. He didn't want silence, but wanted it more than an answer, suddenly. The forest obliged with quiet. "Lake's this way." he told himself in the steady tone of someone pretending to be on a radio. Cutting north-northwest. He climbed until the ground changed under his boots, duff to stone to duff again, and the trees thinned as if water was near. He smelled it, cold, iron, that alpine lake smell of nothing and everything. He topped a small rise, and there it was, the lake, round and black-green with the sky in it, wind dimpling its face. He wanted to shout from the relief, the proof that reality still aligned. The wind pushed a ripple to shore. He saw, on the gravel at the margin, a neat pile of stones, a cairn the size of his hand. Another sat 10 paces farther along, and another, each set to lead a person counterclockwise around the lake toward a stand of spruces. He followed. The cairns were perfectly spaced, like they were laid with a tape measure. Each capstone was the same pale granite oval, too uniform to be random. He told himself a trail crew had done it. He told himself not to think about the number 19. The spruces gathered into a small grove, with a clearing in the middle where logs made seats around a newer fire ring. There were 2 objects on the log nearest the fire ring. A stainless steel water bottle with stickers from 3 national parks, and a laminated tag threaded through a bright orange cord. The tag said, SAR training prop, do not remove. He smiled without humor. This was a training site. The whistle was probably a loop from a speaker. He looked for wires. Saw none. The wind fell and rose. He picked up the water bottle. It was empty. It smelled faintly like lemon. He set it down. Another whistle blast, 3 short, from the far side of the spruces. He stood still, waited. 7 seconds. 3 more. Same direction. He walked toward the sound and found, 2 trees in, a trail marker nailed at shoulder height. It had a single number burned into it, dark and clean. The arrow pointed right. Right led away from the lake, along a faint path that disappeared 20 feet on. He looked behind him at the way he came. There was no sign there at all. He took the marker in his hand to test if it was new. The wood felt old, splinter smooth from weather. The nail heads had tarnished rings. He stepped back into the clearing. He tried to call the ranger station. No service. He could use the emergency text function, but for what? Heard training prop? He turned in a slow circle, map open, trying to anchor the world with paper. The whistle came again. He thought, stupidly, of a microwave pinging. Okay, he said, enough. He blew his own whistle once, loud enough to startle himself. The echo off the lake came back wrong, late, as if the water remembered the sound and gave it back when it felt like it. He left the clearing the way he had come, following the shoreline counterclockwise. He kept the lake on his right, because it's hard to get lost if you keep something on your right. The cairns continued for 50 yards, then stopped. He thought he saw one more near a fallen log, but when he reached it, it was only wind-chopped gravel piled by accident. Clouds muscled over the ridge. The wind grew teeth. He wanted to be lower before whatever was brewing arrived. He scanned the tree line for a gap that looked like the trail. He chose one that matched his memory of the approach and went in. After 5 minutes, he came to a clearing he knew he hadn't seen on the way in, with a stump that looked like a chair and a birch that peeled like paper. Another 5 minutes, and he reached the spruces again. He knew they were the same spruces because of the water bottle and the training tag waiting exactly where he had left them. Only the tag was turned over now, the back showing blank white plastic. Something like anger came up in him. People weren't allowed to do this, set up tricks that interfered with wayfinding. He picked up the tag and was about to throw it when he saw, faintly, under the reflection, words embossed into the plastic, not printed. "Hold the light steady." "What light?" he said, and hated how his voice sounded, small as a kid in a museum. Thunder spoke somewhere south. He looked at the sky. Not a fast storm, but a storm. He needed down. He put the tag back, but not precisely where it had been, to prove to himself things still move the way you moved them. He stepped away. The whistle answered from the trees like a question. He chose a new exit, farther right this time. He moved slow enough to watch his feet, fast enough to feel like he was doing something. He checked his compass and his map, and the angle of the slope. He made a straight line between a boulder that looked like a sleeping bear and a snag that split into 2 fingers at the top. He held that line for a quarter mile and came out at the lake again, at the exact same stand of spruces. He stood there so long, the wind lost interest in him. He touched the water bottle, as if to verify its physicality. It had warmth from the sun now. He put it in his pack without knowing why, other than that he couldn't bear to see it again where it had been. He looked at the marker again. 19. The arrow now pointed left. "Fine," he said. "I'll go left." He went left. The trail, faint, became a cut he hadn't noticed, a line through the brush that could have been a path or a deer run. It descended gently, then quite steeply, then leveled onto a shelf where the cairns returned, shin-high, ordinary. He followed them, and after a stretch that could have been 20 minutes or an hour, came to a wooden post at a junction. 17. He had seen this post already today. It looked tired of being looked at. He sat on a rock and ate the cookie he had bought even though he didn't want it. Chocolate chips tasted like nothing. The first big drops of rain came like thrown stones. He pulled his shell from his pack and shrugged it on. The rain wasn't cold, but the wind was getting there. He took the 17 sign as instruction and went the direction that would logically return him to 16. He reached 18 instead, with its precarious 7-stone cap. He passed it and arrived at 19. The arrow pointed straight now, toward a part of the forest he didn't recognize, even though all forests look like all forests when fear gets big. He stepped toward it. The whistle blew again, 3 short, then another 3 right after, as if whoever was signaling had lost patience with the script. He took out his own whistle and threw it into the brush. It made no sound when it landed. He laughed. One short sound that didn't know what joke it was hearing. Downslope, through firs. He saw a glow. Not white like lightning, not orange like fire. A flat, unhealthy yellow, like a street lamp that doesn't know what century it's in. It pulsed, soft and regular, and for a second it made him think of his sister's old nightlight. He walked toward it, because what else was left? The glow sat in a shallow swale, not a thing but an area, as if the air itself held old light the way stone holds heat. In the center of it, set in the mud, were 3 stones like a miniature cairn, this one with a capstone that was not granite, but something glassy and pale. He knelt without meaning to. The capstone had a word etched into it by a hand that cared. Steady. He put a finger to the stone. It was warm. The rain increased. The swale filled and spilled. The glow dimmed and came back, keeping time with nothing he could name. He stood and looked back the way he had come. Through the trees, 30 yards off, a figure stood, tall, still, tilted slightly as if listening. "Hey," he said, and meant it like a greeting, a plea, a curse. The figure didn't move. He took a step toward it. It took a step back and vanished. Not behind a tree, but the way a reflection disappears when you change your angle. He walked until the glow was only an idea he could hold like a coin in a pocket, and the rain decided it had made its point. He found 16 again without finding 17. He found the creek and followed it the wrong way for half an hour before he admitted it. He found his own orange tape and felt the kind of gratitude that hurts. He came out at the trailhead at dusk with shoes full of water and lungs that tasted like pennies. The lot had only 2 cars left, one of them his. The family's chalk message on the bulletin board, "Have fun," bled into nonsense. The ranger station would be closed by now. He sat in the driver's seat and set his head against the wheel and laughed again. This time a real sound that could have been crying if someone else had named it. He pulled the water bottle from his pack, meaning to leave it on the bench outside the ranger office on his way down. A sticker on it he hadn't noticed before caught the last light, a low-resolution photo of a lake with a stand of spruces on its near shore. Back in town, he told the ranger he had gotten turned around but was fine. She nodded slowly, like she was listening to the part he didn't say. He set the bottle on the counter. She turned it in her hand. "That training tag up there still?" she asked casually. "It was," he said. "I moved it." Her mouth made a small line. "We haven't run a drill at the lake since last fall." She looked at the bottle. "Where'd you find this?" "By the fire ring near the spruces." She tapped the sticker with a nail. "That's from the old search," she said. "We put those up at the trailheads when she went missing. Volunteers. They printed too many." She set the bottle down gently. "You did the right thing, coming down when weather turned." He intended to leave. He said thank you and meant it. He turned toward the door, and because he is the kind of person who ruins his own sleep, he asked, "What happened to her?" The ranger looked at his shoulders like she was measuring what weight to put on them. "She left the trail near 19, she said, chasing a sound. Her partner said it was a whistle. We don't know if she heard what he heard. Our radios picked up a tone for a week after, like a call with no one on the other end. Sometimes people think the forest is empty. It's not. It's full of things that hold on." He drove home in the dark. He didn't play music. He pulled off once to let a truck pass, and realized he had been counting in sevens without noticing. 7 seconds between glances at the rear view. 7 between breaths deep enough to hurt. He showered, ate cereal dry from the box, and sat on the edge of his bed until birds started. His phone woke itself in the morning and decided to be a phone again. A new voicemail badge sat on the screen, though he had no missed calls. He pressed play. Wind, then 3 short bursts of tone, compressed by the carrier into something like a whistle. A gap. 7 seconds. 3 more. And at the very end, faint and patient, a voice he did not recognize and knew all the same, speaking the way the forest speaks when it wants you to hear. Hold the lights steady. He doesn't answer unknown numbers anymore. He doesn't hang tin camping bells on his back porch like he used to, because sometimes they ring when there's no wind. He keeps the map of that loop trail in a drawer he doesn't open. When he gets out of his car in parking garages and the lights hum and flicker, he catches himself looking for small cairns set at the base of the pillars. If you walk that loop in the shoulder season and the sky holds the color of old coin, you might hear a whistle in a cadence that feels like habit more than need. If you see a sign for 19 and the arrow points where it doesn't on your map, decide what you'll trust before you take another step. And if you find a small capstone with a single word cut into it, warm under your hand when it shouldn't be, don't take it, even if you want to, especially then.